It's fucking Halloween! I'm Vince, also known as PleasantKenobi on the internet, the Magic the Gathering content creating equivalent of that big titty goth girlfriend you've always wanted, except I have a dad bod covered in alarming amounts of hair, like Teen Wolf, but instead of a young and sprightly teen, I'm old and I'm a jaded man sat around awaiting our inevitable decay into entropy at the hands of an intangible but undoubtedly cruel spectre. As they say, time waits for no man. Except for Doc Brown, but he had a fucking weird relationship with Marty, so let's not dwell on that territory for too long. With Halloween here, I thought it would be wise to do a spooky episode. So I decided to play Dredge because Dredge players are fucking monsters. It also packs sexy vampires, sexy spirits, sexy zombies, and the classic Halloween staple, sexy illusory jellyfish. This version of the deck that I ripped lazily off of MTG Goldfish is the list that came first place at the SCG Modern Invitational Qualifier in Elkhart. It's a slightly spicy list with two mainboard Darkblasts that end up being pretty damn bad because I played no creature matchups, and the spooky addition of a Scourge Devil. As if the pilot knew this was going to be some sort of Halloween special. Goldfish doesn't have the pilot's name, nor could find it with a little bit of googling, so sorry for not giving props to who played this. You can always comment it down below if you know the person that did. Dredge itself is a scary deck in Magic. The mechanic itself is up there in terms of broken shit alongside Storm. Mechanics that R&D are terrified of and will probably never put into a standard legal set again. And good fucking riddance. This stuff is the thing of nightmares for game designers. Sometimes you design something and sometimes it's accidentally broke as fuck. Whilst Dredge has been an omnipresent menace and legacy in Vintage and Extended since before the dawn of time, it had for the longest of time not really been a real deck in Modern. The legacy version of the deck utilises Dread Return, a card that is banned in Modern to give the deck the ability to play whatever potent finisher they desire, give the deck the reach or speed it needed to compete. In Vintage we see the greatest graveyard and Dredge enabler ever printed in Bazaar of Baghdad. Dredge as a mechanic allows you to place any card drawn with a particular Dredge card from your graveyard. The downside, in inverted commas, and flavourful cost of doing this is to self-mill yourself and turn a number of cards over into the graveyard from the top of your library. Each Dredge card has a certain Dredge number, Gorgoid Grave Troll being one of the biggest, if not the biggest. I haven't checked when writing the script, but fuck you. Was banned in Modern for apparently making the deck too fast and too consistent. Whilst this has some beautiful design from a Vorthos perspective, as the graveyard obsessed Golgari churning through the compost to grow life again from discarded waste, the problem lies in the fact that the mechanic only needs a minor kickstart, at which point it self-enables itself very well, and adds to that some draw and discard effects and some free recursive creatures, and well, you have R&D's monster. Similar in many ways to Frankenstein's, it learns, it grows, and despite its parents' best efforts, it continues to thrive. It just wants to be loved. The deck was weakened with the last ban of Golgari Grave Troll to the point that it wasn't quite as fast as the rest of the absurd shit in the format. But then the prophecy came to pass. A wise man once said that every few years, when the moon sits high and full in the sky, Dredge will get a new toy. Wizards of the Coast decided to print a free, uncountable lightning helix effect on a Dimir card in Guilds of Ravnica to allow Dredge to not only create a never-ending wave of bodies to slap your tits with, but also burn your nipples whilst doing it. I'm not sure how flavourful it is that a Dimir card from the third set of Ravnica helps to prop up the Golgari mechanic from the first. Not that it needed the fucking help in the first place. I have changed this sideboard ever so slightly to include two ass blasts because it wouldn't be Halloween without a Tron killer, would it? As always, this video is brought to you in part by my patrons, a collection of miscreants that has deemed it fit to support my antics. The largest of those contributors are on screen now. As always, I can't thank you enough for supporting me to keep at this and put the effort in that I do. Patreon has done nothing short of transform my life. I have exciting developments going on behind the scenes and hopefully some exciting stuff to share with all of you towards the end of the year. If you want to support me, click through to the link in the description below to throw a couple of dollars my way each month. That allows you to come hang out on the Discord where we can chat about anything from video games to magic to macaroni cheese if John gets his way. And of course, a big shout out to MTGO Traders and Cape Fear Games, the OG sponsors of PleasantKenobi here on YouTube. If you're looking for digital cards, then look no further than MTGO Traders, whilst Cape Fear have you covered for the physical. Use this discount code on screen now to get 8% off your order and directly support the channel whilst doing so. All cards used today are provided by traders because they just want to watch the world burn whilst dressed as a sexy jellyfish. And lastly, but not leastly, Cardsphere continues to support me, the channel and the show. If you are looking for a place to trade cards peer-to-peer without some fictional currency getting in the way, Cardsphere has got you, fam. They use the American dollar, or as we call it over here in the old world, freedom bucks. And without further ado, let's dredge the ever-loving shit out of people in the name of Halloween. This is Halloween, this is Halloween. We have a hand with 2 lands, one of which is a green source for future loans and several looting effects. We could do with 1 card with what I like to call big dredge energy, but loan will suffice. Importantly for this deck, you need 2 lands in spite of making an army out of the graveyard, as we need to be able to reliably loan to hit land drops late and to fuel big old conflagrates to kill our opponents and or their entire board. It is vital to have a green source available, so the top tip when playing Ghost Quarter and Field of Ruin decks against dredge, if you can cut them off of green, you disable a part of their engine and slow them down considerably. We keep this and we leave with the looting and find 2 sexy zombie cosplayers. Although we can cast these, ideally we need these in the graveyard to allow them to return to play from us putting a Narcomoeba or Bloodghast into play. We opt to discard these now, although ditching the loan to allow us to dredge at beginning of upkeep is a possible line too, but we'll be dredging next turn regardless thanks to how Cathartic Reunion works, so it's kind of irrelevant. Our opponent is called Master of Waves, so it's clear what they'll be playing. Turn 1 Thoughtseize from our opponent off of a fetched up swamp. They take out one of our Cathartic Reunions as it's the best enabler in our deck. We untap and draw another Cathartic Reunion because it's better to be lucky than good. We cast our first Cathartic, ditching the Devil and the Life and the Loan to the discard. The great thing about Cathartic Reunion is that it allows you to ditch the dredges and then use them, as opposed to the other draw spells like Faithless, which requires the dredges to already be in the yard upon casting. We dredge 3 and hit a Gogori Thug, which we then dredge for the second draw, putting 4 or 5 cards into our graveyard. We don't find a third dredge card and instead draw a card for the last card drawn off the reunion. I hope you're keeping up with this. Our opponent plays a Tarmogoyf. They appear to be some form of fair mid-range green-black deck. I feel immediately remorseful for my choices today, playing this deck becoming what I'd always feared. The words of a wise man echoed through my mind.
You were the chosen one! It was said that you would destroy this and not join them!
We cast another Cathartic Reunion, ditching at 2 dredges. We dredge 5, hit 2 Narcomoebas, which means they will enter the battlefield, and trigger to put Amalgam into play too, before we can proceed to our next dredge. Our opponent concedes. Oh man, I feel bad. I feel real bad. When sideboarding with this monster, we are tending to bring in a lot of answers to things like Rip, Leyline, Grafdigger's Cage, and similar. Our opener has a Nature's Claim in it, a Shriek Horn to enable us to start fueling our engine once we have dealt with what inevitable graveyard hate comes from them, and a Cathartic to really go to town. Which town, you might ask? Well, the spookiest town of all, of course, Scunthorpe on a Friday night. A leyline means anything you put into our yard simply disappears into the aether, stolen by the void. How poetic. Part of me really wants to leave a Shriek Horn to lull our opponent into a false sense of security, but if we did that and the Nature's Claim got taken by a Thoughtseize or similar, I would die a little bit inside. So we play a City of Brass and we pass the turn with our Nature's Claim up. And lo and behold, an Inquisition from our opponent, so we claim the leyline. Bye bye. They take our Horn with a hand disruption. I am unsure what I consider to be correct in that circumstance. This might have been right. We draw a Narcomoeba, which is pretty shit. We essentially never want to draw Narco, the drugfish, or Dredge's new toy, as they are pretty shit in hand. We discard some junk and draw an Amalgam and our first dredge card. Our draw is super slow, but at least we fought through the lane line. This loan will allow us to actually get the engine warmed up and online next turn. Our opponent collective brutalities us and sees that it's going to put a loam in our bin and enable us, and concedes. Looks like they don't enjoy this matchup one bit at all. Look, you're never going to beat the oppressive, borderline broken modern decks, even when you draw your narrow sideboard silver bullet hate cards that get blown up on turn 1 because they just happen to have it with that kind of attitude. Master of Waves 10, see me after class. We have a green source, a self-looter, and interaction. This hand is sketchy as fuck. We ideally need some way to discard this Stinkweed Imp. Dredge is meant to reward solid understanding of opening hands and willingness to mulligan. This probably means that it's not the deck for me, as I am shit. I keep this hand and look back on it whilst writing this script, having not done much more research than I had at the stage that I was playing this, and just think to myself, why, Vince? Why did you keep this hand? We get our early morning horn on, which, much like my penis that I'm loosely alluding to, shrieks in agony when I twist it. They lead Snow-Covered Island, probably some kind of fucking hipster over there. We self-mill an end step and set a stop on our upkeep. We didn't hit a dredger here, so we opt to mill ourselves again. We play land for the turn, return the Bloodghast from our graveyard and trigger the zombie. End of turn, we have a zombie. They play a Goblin Electromancer. Okay, I have no fucking remorse in dredging this opponent to death. Playing Storm is kind of like the morally questionable actions of young teens in slasher flicks in the 80s. The movies usually frame the actions of the victims like promiscuity, bullying, or recreational drug use as sins that the killer often punishes. Furthermore, this is exasperated because it's often the virginal or innocent final girl or guy that survives and faces off against the big bad in the finale. Yeah, slasher movies are weirdly moralistic. Playing Storm is the equivalent of taking a big bong rip or fondling your lover in the front of a pickup truck outside the cabin in the woods. The internal workings of the slasher film universe dictates that you are gonna get it, and we're gonna give it to you. We are Michael fucking Myers.
Yeah, baby.
We self-mill and hit our first Crippling Chill and upkeep, which is essentially a siege rhino without the body, so without the rhino, so it's, I guess, just a siege, really. Dredge nets us 2 narcotic officers, but with no amalgams in the yard, their value is minimal here. We attack, taking them to 12. We play a thug with little else to do to put more bodies on the board. We can also Darkblast our thug here to enable more dredging and upkeep. On their turn, they ritual into a gifts. They get 2 rituals, a Manamorphose and a Past in Flames. I opt to let them have the Past in Flames and the Manamorphose. Was that correct? I don't know, tell me in the comment section below. 1 cantrip and a Manamorphose later, and they have a second Electromancer in play, and a cheapened repeal puts my Bloodghast back in the hand. I consider Dark Blasting it here to counter the spell and reduce the card draw, but I opt not to. I think that was a mistake. I fetch at end of turn, kill my thug, but didn't realise that if there's no other creature in the graveyard, it puts itself back on top of the library. That is an intricacy I have not really noticed before, and I think Dredge players might have made that mistake in paper as well against me, which could actually be a way of scumming or cheating your way into a better position, so I'd watch out for that in future, guys. Thug puts itself back on top. I dredge up Darkblast, bidding a Bloodghast and a thug from the top of my library. I cast Faithless Looting and dredge too hard so I don't find another land drop. It is easy to get carried away sometimes and dredge far too hard when you should be drawing some cards to hit land drops. I swing and take them to 6, and then they untap and Storm combo kill me. Interaction is overrated. In game 2, I mulligan a hand that would have been absurd if it had a red source in it. My second hand is fine if a little unexciting. We lead Dakmore Salvage. They lead Sleight of Hand. We crack a fetch and then loam our fetch back to hand. They Sleight of Hand again and don't play a 2 CMC cost reducer, so we're in okay shape here. We dredge and put 2 sexy jellyfish into play. Instead of loaming again, I now opt instead to keep Assassin's Trophy that we drew on the first turn up. This allows us to kill a cost reducer on sight and perhaps avoid being combo killed. They cast another Sleight and then cast a Gobbo Electrician, who's here to rewire your house badly. Instead, we ass blast that electrician to bits.
Get fucked, scrub.
We untap after fetching, cast Life from the Loam, and then cast Faithless Looting to dredge our Loam. We have 2 zombies and a Bloodghast in hand thanks to the Faithless. We opt to discard 1 zombie and 1 ghast in order to be able to bring them both back this turn. I play a fetch land and trigger Ghast and trigger Amalgam. They untap after getting slappy with our jellyfish and cast Piece of the Puzzle. I decide to fetch in end step. I then missequence by playing a land when in fact I could have looted and played a land to bring back this Ghast and this Amalgam stuck in hand. Instead I loam and then cast Faithless, which whilst this gives me less bodies, did help find me a conflagrate to kill our opponent with next turn, so maybe that was the right line. Well done, Vince from the past. Wait, can you hear me, Vince from the past? Moving on. They untap and start to go off, casting all this shit, casting Past in Flames, making mana, drawing cards, and I just sit there watching them masturbate over the fucking place. Out of nowhere, they fail to come. They just scoop it up. Whoopsie. I have a hand stacked with the kind of thing modern players hate. Interaction. We have no dredger and a useless card stuck in hand, so I'm not sure if this was good, but the ability to disrupt them tickles my fair magic loving gooch, so I keep it. They play a Serum Visions and we lead with Faithless after drawing a dredger off the top. Never, didn't have it. We discard a Stinkweed Imp and a Loam instead of ditching the Bloodghast because I'm bad at magic. More visions from them, exactly double the visions actually, 3 visions total. We dredge and hit them with a chill. I can't tap out for a spell here as I want to keep up Axe. We pass back. A 4th copy of Serum Visions. I mean, he must be high as a kite off all these serum fumes by now. How many visions do you realistically need to have? I've got 20/20 vision. Oh, that was a bad joke, wasn't it? That was a fucking... That was a stretch. Our opponent doesn't cast a reducer, so we untap and dredge. We cast Loam to get a red source and play it. This brings back a Ghast and then an Amalgam, 5 power for free, seems fair. We discard a Bloodghast to hand size. They play up a Row and cast a Ritual. With a Ritual on the stack and with us having priority, we Lightning Axe this little shit rag. This allows us to dump Stanky Imp over here into the graveyard. They use their 3 mana to Manamorphose and then use that mana to cast Pieces of the Puzzle. This finds a Ritual and another Pieces of the Puzzle. We attack for 5, then make a land drop, making a Bloodghast. I then decide that I want to be able to cast this Conflagrate out of the graveyard next turn, but also hold up Axe this turn. I attempt to cast Conflagrate for 0, but MTG won't allow me to choose 0 for the damage. This frustrates the shit out of me, and I try all sorts of things to get it to work. This takes me approximately a minute or so to do. Our opponent randomly says go in the chat. I'm a little confused by what they mean, so I ask them if they know about Conflagrate. I also ask what they mean by go. They say, I don't know man, mole bug. I ask, mole bugs make you say go? And everyone is confused. There is a high level of confusion now. A 30-second Google search later and I find out that you in fact have to opt to have no targets to cast Conflagrate for 0 on MTGO. That isn't how the card is worded, but that is what MTGO wants. And who am I to argue with a primordial being birthed into existence long before civilized digital card games walked the internet? I am lucky that this slumbering elder god of a card game puts up with my shit as much as it does. In the house of Woodsy, dead Mutko waits, dreaming. So I successfully cast this fucking spell, but then our opponent is AFK, or taking the sweet time. Mole bugs force me at gunpoint to say go. A whole 3 minutes of my life passes. I scroll through Twitter, check my phone, scratch my ass, and contemplate whether in the face of a nihilistic worldview, if suicide is the only answer to the philosophical question. I quickly come to the conclusion of no, I think we should all strive to live in spite of an absurd existence. I explain that I am unsure if they are just busy or tilting, and perhaps wasting my time on purpose now. Either way, I ask if they're okay. Sometimes you just gotta ask. They pass priority and I welcome them back to the game. They explain that their girlfriend is waiting, but I find this rather cryptic. Waiting for what, I ask? I ask if she's waiting for a proposal perhaps. They say dinner. I ask quite frankly how long have they been together because in my opinion that really matters when considering a proposal for marriage. I explained that it took me a good few years to propose to my girlfriend, who is now my wife. It was rather embarrassing actually as I tried to take her for a romantic walk in our old hometown, but she was having none of it and then I ended up proposing in our old hallway landing. I laugh it off and chalk it up at least being a fun story, and our opponent has another weird turn of phrase. Yep. I'm not familiar with this dialect, so I ask, what's up with all the letters? They cast a load of spells and make a load of goblins through empty the warrens. We untap, hit chill and narco and they scoop. Ha, maybe they went to propose now that I've given them the pep talk. Look, Hugo Freitas, wherever you are my friend, good luck. Godspeed. And if she says no, mate, just fucking ditch her. Find someone else. And now, an interlude. If you are taking the time out from playing Red Dead Redemption 2 this weekend to watch this video today, I appreciate you, partner. I now have a mailbox, by the way, so you can send me weird shit to open on camera. People have been wanting to send me shit for ages, so send your stuff to the mailbox on screen now. The plan is to open most of this stuff on camera. I'll do some of it in these videos here, maybe little snippets between games, and perhaps have a large mailbag video for the rest of it. So feel free to send me letters, to read out, or anything really. Stuff that makes me laugh will more than likely get into these gameplay videos. I won't be accepting cards and bits to sign through the mailbox at present. Whilst there's been a lot of interesting requests for this, I don't want to turn it into a time sink with me having to navigate the post office and return mail to people, so I'm not doing that yet. Sorry guys. However, I will be at GP Liverpool if you want me to sign stuff, so come to GP Liverpool. So what are you waiting for? The bad unboxing is waiting. We can't keep no landers. We can't keep one landers without faithless looting. We can't keep no landers. Okay, this is a 4. Oh, kill me. I don't want to go to 3, so I'm going to keep it. By turn 5 we have yet to draw a single land, but our opponent has thought scoured us and put a dredger in the bin. I decide on turn 6, facing down a Jace, facing us every turn, to begin to dredge in case we just get the nut draw of multiple amalgams and a narco. We hit one singular jellyfish who gets bolted. Wow. Just. In game 2, we keep a hand with a horn and a way to kill sideboard cards like Cage. We mill over half our library and end up with exactly this much power in play. Sometimes Magic hates you and variance shits down your neck. Our second Cathartic Reunion gets Mana Leaked, so we will never know if those last few dredges would have set us up something good. Turns go on of us getting Cryptic Tap and doing almost 0 damage to our opponent because we have no power on board. However, they decide to bounce our untapped land last turn. We replay it and this makes a big old army of amalgams and ghasts. However, after the amalgam trigger has been triggered, our opponent surgically extracts our ancient grudges and then snappy surgicals our amalgams. Our clock just got a lot slower, but hopefully Loam and Conflagrate can dome our opponent out. Our Loam gets snared in the second main phase, which feels pretty rough. They then madcap experiment into a Platinum Empyrean, which is actually pretty good for us here as we have Nature's Claim in hand. We only have one green source, and the Chill we mill over gains us life but doesn't change their life total because of the Empyrean. I cast Loam but get only tapped green sources here because I'm an idiot, so I can't kill the Empyrean and get in here. I'm not missing lethal though on the upside due to the fact that the claim would have given the opponent 4 life. Our opponent madcap experiments again into a second Empyrean. Fuck my life. I need to claim one and conflagrate the other. They play a Crackling Drake for reasons. Our Loam gets snared, so we are getting dangerously close to just milling ourselves out with this Loam before we can kill the second Empyrean. We take a hit from the Drake. We successfully Loam lands back to hand, but need one more card to actually kill the Empyrean with the Conflagrate. On their turn, they cast a relic which they can use to exile our graveyard on our Conflagrates. GG Relic E. In round 4, we loot turn 1 into Bloodghast and Golgari Thug. They lead with a mountain into Swift Spear, so we might be facing burn here. And by facing, I mean racing. We mill and hit Chill and lightning hits them. Feels good against red aggro decks actually. Just a little bit. We play a land, put 3 Bloodghast to play, then cast Cathartic Reunion, ditching and dredging dredges. We hit another Chill, another Lightning Helix. On their turn, our burn opponent casts a Desperate Ritual, then a Faithless Looting, discarding a Fiery Temper and firing at our face. And that new Arclight Phoenix from Guilds of Ravnica, casting another looting after that, and going to combat and making a Phoenix. We get hit for 8 damage in combat. That was an impressive turn, but they're now left with 1 card in hand. We draw a red source, use Conflagrate to kill both of their creatures and ping them for 1 damage. We attack for 6 with our vampires. They play a Runaway Steamkin and scoop it up. It appears they're playing some variant of Hodiver's Steamkin Phoenix deck. We see a terrible hand with no dredges, no draw spells and 2 chills. We ship it back and get a weak 6, we mulligan to 5. Let's try this. Taylor Swift Spear from them. We draw a much needed second land and use it to ditch a dredger and an amalgam. They play a turn 2 Steamkin. We dredge, hit Narco and make 2 prized amalgams. We also conflagrate for 3, killing both of their creatures. They say that is rude, and to be fair, they're not wrong. That was pretty rude. No turn 3 play suggests to me something is up. Perhaps they've got some sort of sweeper in hand and they're sandbagging for more value. I'm unsure, but I decide because we're a game up, we can bring back a vampire attack for 7 and go all in, and we get Anger of the Gods. They play a Tormod's Crypt but don't crack it yet. We dredge a Loam, it hits 2 chills, which is a trigger that requires us to exile it from our yard upon resolution. They decide to pop the Crypt and remove our graveyard from the game in order to stop us from resolving those chill triggers. It effectively stifles them. So remember this, guys and girls, you can surgical or you can scoos and eat a chill before the trigger resolves to stop it from being able to resolve. There is a counterplay even if it's fucking minimal. The upside is we got to put a dredger back in our hands, so 1 more card to discard to Cathartic, and our engine is back online. They can trip a Manamorphose, hit a land drop and pass. We Cathartic and put a Narco into play. They do nothing. We dredge and put another Narco into play. We also mill over North of the Bone, which feels good against a mono red burn deck of sorts. We use looting to dredge more of our deck and then attack for 1. I ideally wanted to see a Loam here in the bin for the dredges, but we didn't hit it. They do nothing again. We untap, dredge, and we hit Loam this time. We attack for 2, then cast Faithless Looting, choosing to dredge up Loam and ditch a freshly drawn Bloodghast. Next turn, we Loam lands the hand, then conflagrate them for 7 damage. G fucking G. In round 5, our opponent realizes the fate of this hallowed night. I assure them that everything will be alright. We then look into 4, as there is no god. They cast a Cathartic on turn 2 and go off. I mean, is this the mirror? Because I don't think I'm winning this one. They hit 3 Narcos, 1 Amalgam. Meanwhile, we are unable to do literally anything. There is a chance that this Dakmor salvage might have our opponent think we're on some form of Loam Gitrog deck. If they want to channel a lot, I scoop it up and hide information and go to game 2. In game 2, my hand looks nuts if I can find a Dredger with this here Faithless, but I don't. Our opponent gets their horn on. We bring back the Vamp we discarded last turn and get a zombie out of it. We Cathartic to dig deeper to find a Loam. They mill themselves, and again in upkeep we get double chilled. That fucking hurts. That hurts bad. We loam some lands back, attack for 8 and pass back. It is important to note that our opponent missed a land drop on turn 2 and is now dredging, which means it's highly unlikely they will get to play another land again, as you never have a chance to draw one off the top of your deck. This removes access to loam and conflagrate and basically turns the deck off 80% of the time. They shouldn't be dredging here. We smash them in, with them conceding next turn to a chill off the top. Okay, it's game 3, it's the title fight. Who will take home the imaginary PleasantKenobi Dredge Championship belt? Our hand is perfectly fine but a little slow. I think there are plenty of better 6s than this, so I mulligan. This is an unplayable 6. Whilst we have Faithless to start digging and answers to opposing ley lines of the void that Dredge decks often have in the board, these Narcomoebas are so bad in hand. Not only are they just shit Squadron Hawks with cool art, they also make our mill draws weaker as we are statistically less likely to hit them and trigger amalgams off the top. With 1 Narco in hand, I would have perhaps kept this, but with 2, I think there are better 5s. This is not a better 5. We mulligan to 4 with the intention of keeping anything with lands in it. We have a 4 with a fucking Narcomoeba in it. Oh my fucking Christ, man. Fucking This is frustrating to say the very least. It couldn't get much worse. Our opponent has a relatively slow start as well, but it's considerably quicker than casting a sexy jellyfish on turn 2. We draw Cathartic Reunion, which is about as much gas as we could hope for here. We use it to discard these ghasts and play a land to put them back into play. They dredge over a conflagrate and I decide I've seen enough. They have more power on board, they have a conflagrate, we are just fucked. We don't even have a dredger in our hand or our graveyard. We admit that we wish this was more fun than it actually was. We say GG and we scoop it up. It's interesting doing a bit of reading and watching them playing the enemy, as it gives you some perspective of the decks that you often moan about in the format. Do I still think Dredge is broken? Well, yeah, kinda. It's pretty linear, it's got absurdly high chance of winning game 1 as most decks in the format can't deal with it. Then with a small amount of luck you can dodge or have the removal for the Graveyard Hate game 2. Playing Dredge through Graveyard Hate is difficult and Graveyard Hate is effective against it without a doubt, but a lot of hate like Leyline and Rip, the more powerful ones if you will, are also vulnerable, which balances them in some ways, but because they're vulnerable to removal, it comes down to a bit of luck and decisions about what you keep in hand really. In many ways I don't like it that Modern has come to this. Basically in Modern it comes down to, do you have an answer to my hate, yes or no, and that determines the game more so than any other decision tree. It's not fun magic in my opinion. I think Dredge is mostly fine because it is linear and falls to particular hate. It isn't quite as tilt inducing as dying to 3 hollow ones with a rip in play, but I still don't think it's healthy for the format and I still think Twin should come back. I hope you enjoyed this foray into the seedier underbelly of the more sordid side of Modern. Did you like the video? Did I do something wrong? Is there a deck you want to see me play next week? Leave a comment below to let me know. If you've got nothing nice to say, you can always just type fuck off John. I'll be back next week with more gameplay and I'll be streaming Xur the Enchanter in Modern this Monday, twitch.tv/PleasantKenobi, every single Monday at 7 PM BST. Come hang out. In the meantime, be sure to like the video, share it with your friends and keep it spooky. Yeah, ta-ta for now, sluts.